Good evening, and welcome to the U.S. Crime Line. Tonight, we're bringing you a case that turned Valentine's Day into a scene of unimaginable violence. On Valentine's Day, a day meant to celebrate love, a brutal act of violence shattered two young lives and devastated families across state lines and across continents. A young couple was found shot to death in their bed inside a North Carolina home. The victims were Matthew Wade, a 28-year-old U.S. Army soldier stationed at Fort Bragg, and Katarina Tovmush, a 21-year-old Ukrainian refugee who had fled war in search of safety. Instead, violence followed her. Authorities say the attack was deliberate and planned. Police quickly identified a suspect, Katarina's ex-boyfriend, 25-year-old Caleb Fosnow. Investigators believe Fosnow drove nearly 7 hours from Ohio to North Carolina, entered the home in the early morning hours of Valentine's Day, and shot both victims before 8 a.m. He then allegedly fled the scene and began the long drive back to Ohio. Later that day, the Ohio State Patrol spotted a white Ford Mustang matching the vehicle described in a statewide alert. Body camera footage captured the tense moment Fosnow was taken into custody during a high-risk traffic stop, with officers drawing their weapons and issuing commands as they arrested a man suspected of carrying out a double homicide. But the horror of this case goes far beyond the crime itself. According to family members, a child was inside the home at the time of the shooting. Reports indicate that Katarina's 6-year-old brother was allegedly instructed to wake her moments before the gunfire erupted. Whether the child witnessed the killings remains unclear, but the trauma inflicted on someone so young is unimaginable. These children had already escaped war in Ukraine, only to face new violence on American soil. The case drew national attention, including insight from law enforcement expert Mike King, known for his work on the Profiling Evil podcast and his #1 Apple Podcast series, Gardens of Evil. King noted that this murder struck a particularly painful chord, not only because of its brutality, but because it marked the second killing of a Ukrainian refugee in North Carolina within 6 months. While the two cases are not connected, the pattern raised concerns about vulnerability, displacement, and the hidden dangers faced by those rebuilding their lives after trauma. Katarina Tovmush had been doing exactly that. She fled Ukraine with her family, seeking refuge in the United States. After emigrating, her family became divided. Her father and brothers settled in Utah, while her mother and younger siblings lived in North Carolina. The murders took place inside her mother's home. Katarina had converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a connection that helped her family find housing, work, and support through a network of former missionaries who sponsored Ukrainian refugees. Her church community described her as kind, hopeful, and determined to build a new life. Matthew Wade was from Mississippi, the only son among 4 sisters. He joined the Army in part to see the world and was scheduled for deployment to Italy later that year. Family members say he was close to his nieces and nephews and excited about the future he and Katarina were planning together. That future ended in gunfire. Prosecutors charged Caleb Fosnow with 2 counts of murder and breaking and entering, a charge that underscores the alleged premeditation behind the attack. Investigators believe the suspect unlawfully entered the home with the intent to kill, a detail that could play a significant role in court. The emotional toll on both families has been overwhelming. Matthew's sister spoke publicly about losing a brother who was deeply loved and full of promise. Katarina's family, already fractured by war and migration, now mourns a daughter and sister whose life was cut short after surviving so much. A GoFundMe campaign was launched to cover funeral expenses and transport Katarina's body to Utah so she could be laid to rest near family, a final effort to reunite her with loved ones. This tragedy also echoes another recent case involving a Ukrainian refugee in North Carolina. Months earlier, Irina Zatruska was fatally stabbed on a Charlotte light rail in what police described as an unprovoked attack by a stranger suffering from mental illness. One crime was targeted and personal, the other random and senseless, but both ended lives that had come here seeking safety. Together, these cases highlight different faces of violence and the fragile reality faced by people trying to start over. Amid the heaviness of these stories, another incident sparked outrage for very different reasons. In Las Vegas, a woman named Drian Bryson was arrested after allegedly abandoning her golden doodle at a JetBlue counter inside Harry Reid International Airport. Police say Bryson attempted to board a flight without proper documentation for the dog, claimed it was a service animal, and when denied boarding, leashed the dog to the counter and walked away. Officers later located Bryson at the gate, where she reportedly became hostile and resisted arrest. The dog was rescued and taken in by retriever Rescue Las Vegas, safe but suddenly without an owner. The incident reignited debate over service animal fraud, airline policy, and the consequences of abusing systems meant to protect those with legitimate needs. Back in the true crime community, listeners reacted strongly to recent cases, expressing outrage at killers who seemed more concerned about missing video game releases than the lives they took, and disbelief at offenders who tried to erase evidence by changing a victim's clothing after death. Yet even in these dark stories, moments of connection endure. Simple messages from listeners remind us that empathy still exists. Mike King also shared updates on his newest project, Gardens of Evil, a podcast inspired by his book, Deceived. The series focuses on survivors of the Zion Society cult, emphasizing resilience, justice, and healing rather than sensational violence. Proceeds support child advocacy organizations and criminal justice scholarships, turning pain into purpose. As Mike put it, crime never stops, but neither does the pursuit of truth. This story is a sobering reminder of life's fragility and the strength it takes to survive, to seek justice, and to keep going. For the U.S. Crime Line, I'm Annie Thompson.